Welcome back to the channel. Today we're installing the AEM 3000 wideband series into my 2007 GT500. A brief overview of the AEM kit. So it's cost about 200 bucks, and this is what you're going to receive. You get a bung. This is going to need to get welded into the exhaust. If you don't have the ability to weld it, go ahead and order yourself a clamp-on one, so it'll work fine. Get an O2 sensor right here. Get our O2 sensor to gauge right here, and then our power wires and auxiliary input wires or output wires for air fuel. So we're going to be also running this in conjunction with the Gen 2 Livelink software from SCT, because we have an SCT X4 tuner on this car. One more thing to note, the AEM unit does not need any kind of calibration or anything like that to work. It is pre-calibrated, so no need to worry about that. The unit that's in the car right now does need calibration, and I do believe that might be one of the reasons that we're having issues. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the install of this unit. I will say I already have a bung welded into the exhaust, so I'm not going to go over that at all, but it seems pretty self-explanatory. You'll see where mine's at, and you can judge yours accordingly. All right, so the unit we're replacing is this Air Force unit, and honestly, I love the Air Force gauge. However, for wideband purposes, it's not working out great. It's possible we could adapt it over using the auxiliary cable. That's what this one is using. However, for the sake of keeping everything happy, I want to just use the whole AEM unit. The one major downside to the Air Force gauge is OBD2 powered. So when I have the data logger in here, I'm not able to read the gauge, and I can't see air fuel ratio while I'm going wide open throttle and data logging, which is kind of dangerous. So out with this one, and we'll go ahead and figure out maybe a triple gauge system in the future. But for right now, the AEM unit is what's going in here. So let's go ahead and pull this out first. We're just gonna kind of let it hang loose. The next step is gonna go ahead and pull up our little door sill cover here with the end goal of getting out this panel right here. There is one little rivet back in here, which is now out. This guy, and then this thing pulls straight back like that. And now this is out of the way. Set that here. Set this guy out of the way over here. And this will expose our old unit, which is right back in here. So the way I'm going to run this is pretty much utilizing a lot of the factory components. Not factory, but factory to this unit. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So this is our current one. This is our wideband wiring all up in here. So you can kind of see that this is kind of not an ideal situation up in here. So it could be another reason why we're having issues. But this is the wire that runs down to our wideband. So we're going to go ahead and replace this with the AEM unit and get it out of the firewall. All right, so you saw me feeding it through the other side, and I thought I knew where this was routed, but it seems it comes up right here actually, and then follows this wire harness down. So I can't get in there, so it looks like it's gonna have to, this inner fender well is gonna have to come out for us to get in there. So let me go ahead and do that next. All right, so if you're doing this for the first time, it looks to poke out right here with this wire harness. And I've definitely messed up by stuffing it all through. Did not help myself out the slightest in here, but go ahead and pull it out so we can see our, it looks like they made a slit right there. You can see our new one. So we can come on through. There we go, new one's right there. So nice and out of the way. New one is right here. And we'll go ahead and pull some slack through. That should be good there. Bunch of debris in here. Okay, so now that that's through, we can come up on the top side and you can see where they ran it right through here. So let me go ahead and untangle some of this real quick, and then we'll go ahead and pull it through right here and see where we're at. All right, so I got it fed through. It's kind of hard to see, but I don't know if you can see that light right there. Cable follows pretty much straight from here down, and it was behind an AC line before. And I'm not able to replicate that due to the size of the connector. So should be fine right there. We'll zip tie it up and get everything kind of taut and make sure it's not touching anything. All right, so O2 sensors seem to all be in the 22 millimeter range. So this may not necessarily work, adjustable wrench or something like that, just something. We're gonna go and put our O2 sensor in now, and I'll show you that underneath the car. Underneath the car, this is our new harness hanging right here. And this is the old, let's see which is which. Here's our new one. This is the old harness hanging right here. So we'll go ahead and bring that down. And it's hooked up to our old wideband. So I'm gonna go disconnect this, Put our new wideband in there, reroute the cable a little bit, and zip tie it following this guy. While I'm down here, I'm going to zip tie the rest of these 2 cinchers as well and get them out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and start pulling stuff up and hide it behind this heat shielding and bring it up there. All right, it's not the prettiest in the world, but it'll definitely keep everything out of the way of getting messed up. So we got our wideband right here. This also is a brand new wideband if you didn't see last video. However, we'll hold on to this as a spare. This is the one that came with the kit, so that's the one I want to use. Zip tie, and then zip tie our harness to here, and then tucked it behind the heat shielding and kind of just tucked it back. This way, the end of the header heat shouldn't mess with any of the wires. And then you might be able to see it poking out right there. So we're gonna pull that taut on the top side and then get everything buttoned up. All right, got our wiring routed, went ahead and just got everything nice and hooked up in here, so it runs down. Put our fender well back in, hopefully you guys saw that. Broke a couple connectors, put a couple new ones in for the push pins. And now let's go ahead to the inside of the vehicle, and hopefully we got enough slack to reach our gauge location. Oh yeah, we'll be good to go. All right, so next up, now that we're in the car, technically we could put a bit down right now, but whatever. So the AEM unit does not require factory calibration. However, something to be aware of, regardless, when the sensor gets mounted up there inside of the exhaust, try to have it at a little more of an angle than I do. Mine's more or less 90 degrees with the exhaust. They want it a little closer to about 10 degrees or higher above, angle downwards. This way, if any water gets in or anything, you don't have any issues there. So my sensor life might be a little bit limited, but it's really the only downside to it. So let's go ahead and continue getting this thing out of here. Okay, so obviously you can see this gauge is now just loosely in here. There's only 2 connectors in the back, so we'll worry about wiring in a minute. I'll show you what's going on with that. If you're trying to do these, I believe they're SOS pillars, but I don't think they sell them anymore, the gauge pods themselves. So obviously this is a loose fit. The way we're gonna get this to fit tighter, we're gonna go ahead and get some electrical tape, put it on the back of this, and then eventually get this thing kind of snug. I'm gonna do that off camera. Once we get it in here, we'll go ahead and meet up and continue on the install. All right, so looking at this thing, I got the instructions out in front of me. So this is our only cable that goes to anything. This supplies power, ground, analog output, and everything else for the gauge. This is the thicker of the 2, and then I tucked our other guy back in there, and that goes down to the wideband. So looking at what we got here, so red, try and pull these out. I'm gonna have to peel this back a little bit, kind of get a better idea of what's going on in here. All right. Okay, so what we got going on? Red 12 volt power. So this is going to be a switched 12 volt power. This means that anytime the car is on, this is on, and we don't want it running without it. So the previous owner had this wire right here, which goes to our radio power, I believe. It is a yellow and white wire. It comes out of this harness that runs up in here, and just had it basically spliced in there. And that's good enough for me. The old one works just fine in terms of power. So that's where we're gonna get our power from. Just a little splicer like that. We're gonna run this red cable into there. So next up, we got black, which is right here. So this is gonna be our ground, power ground. So these 2. Then we have green, black, and white black. Those 2 are not used. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip the ends off the ones that aren't being used, because these 2 aren't gonna be used. Blue, serial, optional output, also not gonna be used. And then we have these 2 wires. That leaves us with white and brown. White and brown is for our analog positive and analog negative. So we're using these 4 cables The rest of them, not so much. I'm gonna go ahead and wire these guys up and put maybe a shrink wrap tube or something around them to get them out of the way. All right, so it's not the prettiest, but I went ahead and stripped off the harness because we're gonna need bits and pieces of this for different stuff. So, kind of sucks, but we're grounding it right here. Body ground right there, which is perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and ground it first, and then we'll continue on with our way. Pretty much taking just the black cable, and it's gonna go right there. So I'm gonna get some connectors together, and we'll go ahead and get that grounded up. So I went ahead and put our harness back into the shroud that we cut open, so that should be out of the way now. And now we're gonna go ahead and just pop it in here next. Nothing really too crazy going on. So we're gonna get that started by hand. We'll go ahead and, honestly, I think the best way to do this, well, snip it off a little bit. It's not too long. See if we can get this thing stuck in here properly. Actually, with the way the things are supposed to be set up, we're going to snip it off all the way and let it go ahead and eat itself the proper way. All right, that's in there nice and good. Close that guy up. So now all we got is our white and brown, and these are gonna go to our analog cable. All right, so let me pull you guys away from a minute. So this right here is our analog cable. This goes to the SCT4. This is our tuning device, and looking on their website, the way this thing gets wired up, orange is your actual analog input, and then black is just the regular ground, and blue is the analog's ground as well. So black and blue can go together, and then we just have our orange cable that's going to go ahead and run to our white cable. So white is, let me double check on here, white analog output positive, and brown analog output negative. So we're going to go ahead and plug those in right now. I'm also going to throw a zip tie around this thing to make sure our harness doesn't back its way out. As you can see, it's kind of trying to do right there. All right, so that's that. Generally, I'm not the biggest fan of butt connectors. I'm more a fan of soldering and stuff. However, fans do not mean that things are being done right. From what I was talking to my buddy about, butt connectors are generally better for harness stuff because, and you can look this up, I'll look it up too because I don't really understand it, but soldering actually causes issues. Over time, the solder can break and cause wiring issues, whereas butt connectors leave a little more flexibility in the wire, so it's more likely not to break on you. Just a little FYI, something I didn't know, I thought was kind of interesting. I'll pass along to you guys. So let me go ahead and tuck up this wire, get all this nice tucked away, cleaned up, put our harness back together, and then get the car down, start it up, and see how it does. All right, so as you can see, it's all cleaned up. Got our little analog hanging out over there. I'm gonna go ahead and start the car up while it's still in the air real quick, just to make sure. I'd always double check, just to make sure everything works like it should. Let's turn power on. Guess we'll, oh, it's getting power. Radio's on. Thought that should be all it would take, but maybe that's not good enough. Let's find out. All right, found the issue. Looking at our little connector right here, it never actually penetrated right there. See if it'll focus. Yeah, it never actually penetrated the casing of the wire. So let me go ahead and strip that wire out a little bit and do this again. All right, got that sorted out. Key on. And there we go. Stuff showing up. It actually looks better on camera. It does in real life, but there we go. Guess heat? Question mark? I don't know. also have no idea what it's doing, but I'm gonna go ahead and start the car up, see how it does. Alright, so as you can hear, the car is running and the gauge is currently hanging out. The reason for that is the gauge was reading right when I wired it up earlier. However, the actual data log was reading way off. It was actually maxing out voltage. So obviously that's no good. It's reading now fine. You can see 14, 15 matching there. So let me go over a couple things and show you what I did to fix that. So we can go ahead and stop that now. But this took, honestly, a full day of troubleshooting to figure out. Let's see. So first thing to pay attention to, this was not the problem. It was a grounding problem. However, the factory AEM, when you're in Livelink, and the old style of AEM conversion, so if you go to equations in Livelink, it used to be right there, volts times 2 plus 10. The new AEM equation, according to the instructions, is volts times 2.3750 plus 7.3125. And that comes right out of the direction. So it's for AFR. Use this essentially, and that's where it comes from. So this is the directions you'll get. I have a paper copy up there. So that's that. Under this same note, so the white signal wire should be connected to the positive of the analog input device, which we did, white to brown, or white to orange. Here's where everything gets screwy. So what I messed up was I did brown. I thought brown was a grounded circuit. So meaning it goes into the gauge, goes down to the chassis ground. I thought that's how it worked. Not at all. The brown needs to be grounded. So all 4 cables that come out of that harness we were just looking at, the black and brown on the AEM side and the black and blue on the SCT side, all 4 of those need to have a solid ground. So what I wound up doing is I just brought all 4 of those cables together and grounded them to the same chassis ground I was using earlier, and now it works. So pretty wild. The weather is currently below 50 degrees out, so I'm not able to do logs probably until next weekend, which sucks, but it is what it is. So now that we got that issue sorted out, the weather is going to be like below 50s all week, super crappy. I'm not going to get traction if I try and do logs right now, so I'm just not going to. And it'll probably be until next week, which really sucks, but it is what it is. At least the gauge and logging is working properly now. I thought I had it sorted out, and evidently that was not the case. So now that you guys know what I know, there is also a forum post that I found this on, and I'll link that down in the description below. All right, so it's been a couple days since the last clip. Went ahead and finally got a chance to do a pull in the car. It has been absolutely terrible weather since I installed this thing, but today was a nice day. Didn't have a chance to have the camera with me. I was out with a buddy and decided just to run a log real quick. So went ahead and did it. And this is the results. So figured I'd just go show you right here. This is our pull. So for comparison, just a screenshot of the last one. This is what we used to be seeing in the air fuel ratios. That was with this little setup right here. Pardon the mess. Like I said, I'm doing some house renovation stuff, so far and in between with car things. But this setup, for whatever reason, I don't think the sensor was bad in particular. It's just something with this box was not happy. But what we were getting, so you can see how it's kind of like very like flat skips. Not honestly like, I don't know, it's interesting. Looking very flat, 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 flat. Not the most responsive unit out there. And you can see when we went wide open throttle, it just dips straight down. This was before we changed it out, so it was like straight up 10. Straight across the board, end of pull. Now, this is the new sensor. So right here, this is our same deal. We'll go ahead and highlight that guy. Air fuel ratio. So start opening up the throttle right here. RPM starts rising a little bit and drops a little bit down, and we get a nice, like look at how much more detail that is. So this is obviously one reading properly here. This is D-cell fuel shutoff. This is the watt shift. And then see it comes in and we got a nice, looking at this line right here, we're looking at 1150 and 12.0, or 11 to 12 within that range. And it kind of starts dropping down, average of an 1150, and then it drops a little bit down to 11.3, and it's like around a low 11, high 10 by the end of the pull average. So this is what we're talking about. Way better detail with the AEM unit. It actually shows everything we're supposed to be seeing, and there you have it. So all in all, super happy with the AEM unit. A little pricey, but well worth it. Not any more pricey compared to any other units out there, to be honest. Even the the Pro Sport, this guy here was still pretty expensive, but I didn't have to pay for it because it came with the car. So I guess, you know, it is what it is. I was trying to make it work because that's what I had to work with, and it just wasn't happening. I'm very happy with how everything turned out, talking to the tuner and everything. We'll see what he says about this log, and this tune-up, he said to go ahead and send a 6,300 RPM, which is going to be the car's new red line. Didn't quite do that. I was a little bit sketched with fueling, so I stopped it at 5K after talking with him, just to make me feel better. So I'm expecting to see, probably not a revision, but just, hey, go ahead and send it the rest of the way. Send him that log at some point in the near future. And I think the car is very, very close to being dialed in at this point. So got all those small bugs worked out. Everything seems to be going good. Knock on some wood over here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. So hope you enjoyed the install video. And it just kind of hopefully clarifies a couple things. Got Livelink hooked up. We got our wideband working properly now. And the car feels pretty solid. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. And like I said, I would go back out and get some pulls, but I don't know. I want to get this video out, and I really don't feel like beating on the car for no reason. So here we are.